What we've just
I'm gonna take you shopping next
This
week.
week.
We're going to like we're having a rebrand. Okay.
Okay. Hello and welcome to our podcast. This week we have Victor on the podcast, not Vincent.
Not Vincent.
Not Vincent.
No. There's a running joke actually because I forgot we were talking for 2 hours on the podcast and we were recording the intro at the end and I forgot his name, so I kept calling him Vincent and it was very funny.
I'm Victor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So our first guest today is Victor. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. So, Victor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Victor. I'm a serial maker and a startup founder. And I'm the founder of Sidekick.ai, which is an AI landing page builder. It allows anyone to build beautiful landing pages within seconds without any copywriting, design, or coding skills.
Wow, that's incredible, really. I mean, because for example, one of my projects, I was looking to build a website, and websites are complicated to build, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And then if the likes of WordPress and different things like that, I feel like to an extent, like they rip you off, they upsell to you, so they make it sound all very complicated, so you stay confused in the ecosystem. So it's really cool that you're doing something like that, and that bypasses all of the sort of upselling and the added charges, right?
Right. Well, we obviously also charge for our product, but the thing is that the problem that we are solving is actually a personal problem of mine. So being a serial maker, I made more than 100 landing pages, and it's always been a very tedious task to build one because, well, you just want to launch something real quick, see if you have some feedback, if people are signing up for your tool, if they're willing to pay. But then there are a lot of things you have to do, so it's a bit of a big project, really. So you need to come up with a structure of your page, you need to come up with copy, what should the headlines be, what are my competitive advantages, what are the features, and how am I going to present them. Then you kind of have to find a template or some HTML code on GitHub, whether you're technical or not, and then you have to find images or produce your own images and the icons. So it all ends up being quite a long process. So for me personally, it took, I don't know, normally something like 3 days to build a landing page that would be kind of decent. It's really too long. 3 days is a lot of time, especially mostly doing this almost full time. Sure. And I thought when GPT came up, I thought, oh wow, I can kind of automate this process, and so I've built it by myself. And fun fact, actually the first version of Sidekick.ai website was generated using Sidekick.ai, and until this day it generated 140,000 signups so far.
Wow.
So the previous version, now last week we launched a new version of a website, but a website that was generated within 5 minutes was capable of generating 140,000 signups, which is I don't know, I'm really happy about it. So this proved my theory. So yeah, really proud about that.
Yeah, that's crazy that you have that many signups. And I feel like we were talking kind of off camera where you said that it solves that problem of the blank page. Yeah. So it kind of does for writers what ChatGPT does, in the sense that it can just give you ideas, right? So it just will build you the kind of, in one sense it'll build you the kind of basic version of it and take away all that effort of thinking about the branding and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also, as a startup founder or entrepreneur, I myself would find myself, procrastinating because a website, so I need to do this and that, and it's just too complicated, it takes too long, and then I would say, I would build it next week or maybe another week or a week after that. But then, just coming up with something at the beginning, it's incredibly helpful. And in fact, we are talking to our users a lot, obviously, and what we're getting from them is that actually a lot of them, they we were asking what website tool are you using? Are you using any of our competitors? And a lot of them are actually saying, oh, I don't really use anything because it's just so complicated. I tried, but it was just too complicated for me, so I ended up not using any of them and not having a website at all. And then Sidekick for them is like a way just to, start doing something.
Yeah. Well, you make very good points, because there's a lot of people, especially in the entrepreneur and business space, that need landing pages for their businesses. And if people are running ads or if they're selling courses, they need to make maybe, on average 4 to 10 landing pages, depending what they're doing. And you're right, if an average on a landing page takes 3 days, even more so for someone who's just starting out, it's going to be longer. The fact that you're not only able to create multiple landing pages, but quickly and efficiently, and everything's taken care of you, it's amazing. It's really, really cool. And it gives people that added mental space in their head to actually focus on other things and don't have to worry about procrastinating, or don't have to be like, oh, I need to really focus on building a website. I really need to focus on it. And because it's draining. If you don't know what you're doing and it's complicated, it's just a drainage of energy at that point. And it's,
yeah, exactly.
It's incredible.
That's actually our probable marketing slogan. We're still working on it, so maybe it's the first time I'm going to mention it at public. So we're thinking about, the idea is like that we want to allow people to do business, not landing pages, so that you focus on things that matter the most, instead of, just doing something that you kind of have to do, which can be easily automated these days.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's going to be a differentiation in the market? So what I mean by that is, like, you have, I suppose, at the moment, people who are willing to spend really, really big bucks on their website because they really, really want to get it right. And then you have, at the bottom, people who are like startups, SMEs, and they really just need a site and for it to go live. So as you say, those people are either being sort of held back by it and your tool kind of lets them sort of go. But previously they maybe would have hired somebody to do that website for them and paid quite a lot of money for something that's like quite mediocre. So do you think in a way tools like yours are going to sort of do away with the kind of bottom rung of sort of mediocre website kind of people who are providing content?
For websites,
yeah, overpaying for them in the same way that like ChatGPT is sort of getting rid of that bottom rung of writers who are just sort of fulfilling like the space of doing content on a website.
Well, I don't really like the word mediocre because I think our websites are beautiful anyway. But I do agree that obviously, let's say if you hire an award-winning design agency and a dedicated copywriter, you might end up having a result that's better. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But what I see is that, well, first of all, for this startup founders and small businesses, they do get an edge in terms of speed, right? While, with AI, you see how fast things are changing.
Yeah.
And every day there is a new models, there is a new tool, and it matters how fast you're developing your app. Like, I don't know, there is now a huge competition between like OpenAI and Google, and then there are some open source models. But obviously, just OpenAI had a head start. They started before the others, and that's part of the reason why they are now ahead of the game mostly. So the same thing, applies to other businesses. So if you just launch something really quick and then you start iterating and you get feedback and you get customers, then you have a huge advantage over your competitors. So this not only applies to small businesses, but we actually also see big businesses using our tool. So the way that they use it is, we have a few like big startups with product teams who need to validate a lot of their hypotheses. And then let's say they have 300 potential products they want to launch, and then they also potentially want to launch it for 5 different audiences. So this actually creates a matrix of 1,500 landing pages that they might want to test and see what the feedback is. Are people clicking? Are people buying?
Yes.
So some of these companies are just generating literally hundreds of websites just to test the feedback. And obviously, it's not about the price of click or the price of a lead at this point. It's just about the comparison.
Yeah.
Right, so you would just launch all of them, you would buy some traffic or share them with your customers, and you will watch the data. Are people engaging? Are people leaving their emails? And then if they do, well, from that point you can optimize, you can hire an agency and do whatever, but you are already, you A/B tested a lot of stuff.
Can I ask, how, if I wanted to create a landing page on your website, could you break down, so like, what information do I need to give it? What do I tell it that I want it to do? How does it all work?
Right, so that's actually incredibly simple. All you have to do is enter a description of your project or product,
like
or
literally like ChatGPT.
Exactly, and no, not exactly. And that's actually a fun thing. I will share this a bit later, because we've seen a bit of an evolution in the ways how people use our tool. Because at the beginning, ChatGPT wasn't really popular, and now we see a lot of kind of requests and project description being written in mind with what ChatGPT could do. So this changes a lot. So previously, normally the way that Sidekick works is you just have to enter what your company or project does. So you could make a podcast for Innovation Nation, and then you would say a landing page for Innovation Nation, and then you could say Innovation Nation is a podcast where you invite bright, smart people like Victor, and tell about everything that's happening in AI. That's it. And then you click a button, and we generate a landing page for you. But now we see also a lot of people entering, like, I want a landing page with 4 different blocks and testimonials, and add a picture about that. So this wasn't the case before, but now people are already, they kind of developed the new language of communication with large language models, and this is why they're writing different requests. But anyway, back to your question, you just enter a description of your project in a very simple way. You tell what it does, so it definitely helps if you mention your target audience. You could mention a couple of your advantages, because then the AI would better understand what it should write about. You click one button, and then we generate a landing page for you. So
how long does it take on average once you press generate?
It takes from like 30 to 60 seconds in between, depending on how big your landing page should be.
Wow.
So at the moment it's template based. Yeah. So we have a few templates that we vetted, and we know that they are optimized for conversion. And then we have this thing called Smart Template Search, or AI Template Search. So basically, we just, based on your company description, we try to understand what is the best fitting template for you. And then we just choose the template and populate this template with content. So we populate it with conversion optimized copy. So all the prompts and all the copy written, it's basically, we trained all of every component of Sidekick is trained on thousands of the highest converting landing pages. And then so we generate the copy, and then we also have the thing called a Smart AI Image Search. So we also populate your website with images. We're experimenting a lot with actual image generation, but at the moment it's not quite there yet. So
still the hands, right?
I think that's just down to the prompts though on the photo images, because you have to be very precise on what you want. And I think, sorry, I just wanted to
no, even though we have a lot of experience in prompt design, and we made thousands of experiments, but it's just a little bit less control, let's say, with just populating the template with the stock images. It's just kind of works better, but it's a work in progress. I mean, back when we started, it was like about 9 months ago. The hands was an issue. I think only DALL-E was available. When did DALL-E become available?
I think DALL-E's been out for a year, and then Midjourney kind of dropped after that, around the same time.
So DALL-E became popular first, and then there was Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. So yeah, back then it was an issue. Right now I see, I can definitely see that we will start implementing image generation too, and and then we are optimizing the landing pages for conversion. So we try to see which of them perform better, which generate more leads, and then we just feed this back to our AI engine to make sure that your landing page would convert.
There's almost a lot of psychology into the aspect of. I would say that I've very much in my own projects focus on psychology quite a lot, and I look at sort of how to get someone to think a certain way, how to sort of attract the lead, how to sort of bring them into your ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how you can get to a point where within 60 seconds, not only will it create you a landing page, it'll put all of the content on there that it believes to make a good website. It's starting to understand the psychology of what your customer wants from a website, whether it's easy to read, whether it's to navigate. It's easy to add something to a basket, and it's really focusing in on how to keep them on the website, how to get them to buy a product, and then eventually when you start putting ads on the website, it's like you can then become very targeted ads towards that person. So it's unbelievable to actually listening to what you're saying and processing it in my head, and I'm like, the psychology with AI is just unbelievable at this point, and it's exciting because the more sort of Sidekick develops, the more that other AI software develops, it's just going to get better and better and better, and we're already seeing it now. And AI's only been around for I would say a year. It's crazy.
This speaks, I think, a little bit to the point I was trying to make earlier. So when I said mediocre, I think what I meant was that at the minute, I didn't mean Sidekick AI was mediocre. I meant mediocre in the sense that people at the moment are paying for mediocre websites.
Or they don't know where to start.
Or because they don't know where to start. Yeah. They don't know where to go and hire someone. Or maybe they're going on Upwork or they're going on Fiverr. They're paying this money and then they're not getting what they want. But your tool transforms that because
you
they
just
get
set the bar. You just set the bar and you're like, at a minimum it should be like this. You know what I mean?
And you set it there, and so you are a disruptor. You've disrupted the whole industry. And what you've done is you've created a position where that whole problem, which is fundamentally what business is about, solving problems, creating value, it can now be done, as you say, in literally 60 seconds.
You've essentially given everyone a chance. You've given everyone from a small business to a 17-year-old in his bedroom, not knowing what he wants to do with his life, to someone who said, fuck it, I'm going to go and become an entrepreneur. You've literally give them some skin in the game, and you've also given them the ability to better their lives and have something that can be so tedious and long. And I remember building a website for my art store, and I was like, I don't like this. I'm like, I really have to think about it. But in reality, that's one less thing they have to worry about to get one step closer to their goals, and that's what you've done. And even from a corporate scale, you're helping everyone out, and it's nice because it's very inclusive. It's not just sort of suitable to a specific type of people. It's very much from a 17-year-old to a corporation. It's unbelievable. I'm really impressed.
Thank you so much for your kind words. So that's actually our mission. So as I mentioned before, I used to create landing pages myself. I know how much of a tedious task it could be, and we love helping entrepreneurs. We love helping people just getting their ideas out there, and that's our mission. So that's exactly what we want to achieve. So we want to help people who are not very familiar with the technology just use it, and basically we try to help people who do not have skills in design, copywriting, or any technical skills create landing pages. And the way we do it is by only asking them about their business and try to do everything else on the background, because they don't need to be experts in any of these things except for their business. They just need to provide enough information about their project, and then that's it. Because otherwise, I mean, this is just overwhelming when you start creating your first landing page. You're like, oh, you have to read about like headlines and this a little bit of design theory, and then even if you are not using actual code, HTML, CSS, then even like building this in this website builders, it seems easy on the YouTube videos with ads, but then when you start drag and dropping and you move a little bit something to the side, and then the layout is broken. So,
or even if you look at something like WordPress, which is where one of my websites is built on, it doesn't when you're trying to move something, it's very you can't go wild with it. You kind of have to keep you do have boundaries of what you can do with the website, which is a bit crazy because it's like I don't know, this and this together, and it's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
it's like, it needs to be
you can never quite do what you wanted to do, and it's funny because there's like a bit of a generational gap between me and Joey. So when I was at school, it was even more primitive than this. It was like, as you said, you had to either know about HTML or you had to be on Microsoft Publisher or some arcane software like this, and there would be some geeky kid in the class who knew all about this, and it would be a case of you had to go and sort of pay one of these people. They'd make the site, and then you'd be like, oh, this isn't quite right, this isn't quite what I wanted. So then you have to go back and forth with them with this frustration. Or you have to pay them more money to kind of redo it, or have somebody else sort of redo it. And what's amazing about your tool is that you don't like the website that it's created for you. Boom, just press a button and then it makes another one.
Yeah.
Like this is like we're out of the dark ages now, from the point where, you would have to go and have a whole site made, and then it comes back and you say, I don't like it. You're like, well, that's $300 down the toilet. I've now got to go and find another guy to make me another one that's going to take another week. So you're absolutely right. You've transformed this really tedious process.
And expensive.
As well. Yeah.
Because the quality is just insane.
Well, $300 is also kind of on a lower range.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I mean, I wouldn't even consider hiring someone for $300 to build a website because it would just end up being not good, probably. And then also when you build it yourself, we still see a lot of websites that it might be a very nice template from the scratch, but then if you allow people too much freedom, and back on the topic you mentioned, they end up messing it up a little bit, because like, oh, here's a nice template with a nice headline, and I mean headlines should be catchy and short. All the copy should be short, actually, because people don't read too much information on the internet. And then here's this nice template with a headline, and you would see people like insert, like 5-paragraph text in it, and then all the website just basically crashes and looks terrible, even though the template is quite nice. So that's also a nice thing about Sidekick. We just write a copy that is kind of optimized for the page. We know that copy should, deliver the idea. It should be short, and it should allow your visitors to understand what the tool is about and then convert. So, yeah.
And I think people forget how competitive it is when you design a website. Is it something that I read that people will click off within literally like a few seconds if they see the website and they don't like it?
Well,
it takes too long to load.
Engagement is the new currency. It's how do you get people on a TikTok video or an Instagram post or anything longer than 4 seconds is the average.
Yeah. I mean, well, there is the term called like bounce rate. If I don't remember exactly, if people just close the page within the first 5 or 6 seconds. So yeah, they just go there right away. They should understand what it's about. They don't understand, they just like close. And if you're paying for traffic, then it's just money down the drain.
For sure. Where can you see yourself taking Sidekick AI? Like what is the next step for Sidekick AI?
Well, that's a great question. So eventually we want it to be the easiest landing page builder there is, the easiest website builder there is. So we just literally want to allow 5-year-olds create websites within a couple of button clicks, and we want to help people build beautiful websites. So there are different ways to do this, and we are talking to our users. So we have a long roadmap of features. So there are different ways it could go. So it could either be something like chatbot, like ChatGPT, where
right. You could just have a conversation with it.
Exactly. So hey, just like add a block about that, or change the color palette, randomize and everything. Or can you change this copy, make it a bit shorter or longer? Or can you make the same website but for a different target audience? So ChatGPT kind of does it right now, and that's actually the problem that we're trying to solve. So ChatGPT can actually like generate HTML and a bit of CSS, but it would look very basic, and it wouldn't be really well designed, and it has limited capabilities. So we are solving this, so optimizing some of the large language models to actually make this process easier. And also, obviously, there is a long list of features on the background. So, well, first of all, not everyone is familiar with HTML, CSS, right? So what Sidekick actually does, that is like you generate a website and you can host it clicking two buttons. So instead of just uploading it somewhere, getting a server.
The thing is, for me, being a 22-year-old entrepreneur, I've learned a lot, I've been through a lot, and there's a lot that I think when you go for success and when you start having your own businesses, there's a lot you realize about the world, about you, about life. And one of the big things that I believe in is there's a lot of people that don't have the right resources to get started, or don't have that chance to get started, where if they actually did, they could do amazing things. And I think where your business lies is by giving these people that very much sort of head start to actually get started with their lives and create something amazing. And I just want to say, like, I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to like almost be saved by the fact, because a website can be a stumbling block, like a mental block that can, you know what I mean? You don't know what's on the other side of your mental block. So for most people not being able to do a website, I'm just curious, most people not being able to do a website, you've now given them that freedom to really sort of go wild with everything they want to do. And I just want to say that's fucking amazing.
Thanks. So the thing is, the potential next step could be, well, once you have a website, we can also help you generate ads for your website. Once you have a landing page, we can start generating articles for you, and we can help you with ideas of what you can send to your customers via email, and it goes on and on and on. So website is kind of an entry point. Our mission is to make entrepreneurs' lives easier, and we'll do our best to achieve that.
So what we've just discussed is this idea that what you're doing with Sidekick AI is helping 17-year-olds in their bedrooms, even younger than that, like basically realize their business ambitions and take away these stumbling blocks. How do you think tools like this, other AI tools that you're using, essentially, to my mind, what they're doing is they're creating more entrepreneurs? And for all this noise, for all this discussion about how AI is going to destroy jobs, blah, 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 I actually think what it's doing is it's giving people more agency, and it's creating more entrepreneurs. And then eventually in 5-10 years time, what we might see is, instead of people working 9-to-5 jobs, that there will be this whole population of people who are, running their own businesses, selling their own products, helping solve each other's problems, and having more leisure time because they've got more sort of effective businesses. I think it's a positive thing. What do you think about it?
I totally agree with you, and I'm actually really excited about the amount of tools that pops up every day. It's hard to keep track of them.
It's like a BBC News equivalent of like, wow.
No, it's like, and that's the challenge. So I built I don't know, as I mentioned before, like 50 different products for a reason, because I just love doing that and I love experimenting. And, you know, I've been an indie hacker for a while now. We're a team of 3 co-founders. And it's always been like just exciting to build stuff. But now, at the beginning, I was trying to keep track of everything that pops up. But now, obviously, with all the people in the waitlist that we have and all the active users, we just kind of have to focus on building this. And as so many developers and entrepreneurs out there, I get so much anxiety and FOMO about what's happening. So at the beginning, I was daily tracking what's changing. Now I try to do it a little bit less, maybe, you know, once a week, just read some news, AI news recaps. Yeah, so having said that, I'm really excited about all these tools, and yeah, I would definitely say that tools like Sidekick and other AI tools definitely help to lower the entry barrier into the market, because previously, I mean, let's say 30 years ago, if you wanted to start a business, you would need to register a company, and then you would have to get an office and a suit and, you know, an assistant to look professional, because otherwise no one would do business with you. And then you would need to hire an agency. Well, not 30 years ago, probably you wouldn't need a website, but like let's say 15 years ago, you would need a professional website and official address and everything. And then we can definitely see that over you know, it simplifies the process. So now you can just, I don't know, create a shop on Gumroad and quickly start doing something, or I don't know, upload your tool to GitHub, create a landing page, see if you have demand, and only then start signing up. And now also, I mean, previously, I don't know, you would need a huge team to do a lot of tasks, right? So if you would need to do sales, you would probably need to hire a huge sales team. But now there are so many tools that can help you automate this process, right?
Yeah.
So that help you automate the process of LinkedIn outreach, and they can kind of structure the information about the person you're trying to reach out to and help you write the good outreach message, you know, so that it doesn't look cold. So previously, you would need to spend an hour on research. Now, like, it's just like 5 minutes. So the entry barrier is much lower, and I think definitely way more new businesses will pop up. And also, my take on this, well, I mean, it would be a very long discussion about, you know, whether AI is gonna leave everyone jobless, or we will just end up in a society with basic income and everyone will just do what they enjoy. There is no, you know, factual answer to that right now. But at the moment, I do feel that AI automates a lot of tedious tasks, right? I mean, we still need copywriters, right? But now the copywriters who are more, you know, advanced, they all use tools like Jasper or CopyEye, or maybe wrote something for ChatGPT themselves, and then they just do 10x the work. Same goes for designers, same goes for every other profession out there. So I feel like AI plus human, you know, is better than standalone human,
or
standalone AI.
Yeah,
because you still need to control the AI to process what it's generating, but it automates stuff.
I think you made a really good point, because there's a lot of people out there who, and I think this is also hasn't helped with the media, but there's this big AI's taken over, you're going to be out of a job, there's not going to be nothing for you left to do, it's all going to become automated. But I think you made a really good point in the sense that in reality it's not. It just makes you, it's a very good tool that can help you, push you further to sort of new ways of doing things. Same with Sidekick, right? It's like it allows you to have a landing page for a business or a landing page for a blog like that, you know. And it's like essentially it just helps you get a leg up, and it helps you, like you say, with copywriters, you can do 10 times more work. It's super fascinating. And a friend of mine who's also very big in the AI space, he described the likes of like ChatGPT and certain things like it's almost like an infant, like a child, but it has all of this information, and you have to really like train it and really sort of establish. It's weird to say this, but almost establish a relationship with it, and basically, you know, be like, okay, this is what we need to do, or you know, sort of, we need you to learn from this, we need you to adapt to that, and it's just fascinating, because it's very much, you're right, it's all together. It's not separate. It's actually becoming more together, and that's really cool.
But do you know what it's like when it's like having all of these tools? I described it like this to someone. I said it's like having an intern that doesn't, when they have a problem, come to you and tell you what their problems are. They just go away and do something, and then they hand it in, and it's completely wrong. And you're like, what the hell? This isn't what I asked for. Then you have to go back and ask them to change it. So when you first start using it, it's really frustrating. And I think a lot of people I can see a lot of people giving up and being like, oh, this hasn't given me what I want. This is total garbage, right?
Yeah.
But then you go away and you learn about it, and you learn, oh, you can actually ask it to improve it. As you say, you can build this relationship with it. It gets to know your kind of style or what you want, and then after a while it starts to give you the results that you actually want. And like you would with an intern, you know, you have to actually train it. You can't literally just hire someone off day one and then expect them to know everything about your, you know, how you work and how you operate.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I would definitely say that working with AI tools is a new skill, and you have to learn it. And after working with AI tools for a while, you kind of develop a sense of what it can do or cannot do. We also see it a lot at Sidekick. Like, some people would just sign up and then they would generate a landing page for, I don't know, the example that we're using a lot of times is like a flower delivery company. So in the description they would write, we sell flowers, something like that, and then it would obviously generate a very generic website, and some of the copy would be a bit off. It still would, you know, get the theme, but if you just provide a little bit more information, so we sell flowers, we're in Bali, right? And we deliver within 30 minutes, or you don't pay for the delivery, something like that. Then AI would understand what you do much better, and the end result would be much better.
Yeah, you just have to be very precise with it. You have to be like, this is what I want, this is who we are, this is what we offer. Yeah, you're right. You just train it. You're just like, here's all the information, and it's like, okay. Because it's weird, because I feel like it's very hard to see the other side of AI, how it all thinks and how it all pulls it together. But it's almost like how it almost creates an instant psychological response of how to make it look for someone to understand all of this. It's just crazy. The fact they can do it in 30 seconds is crazy. It's unbelievable.
And it is getting easier. Like, I remember when I started, God, it sounds like, when I was a boy, when I started off, and it was only literally like a few months ago. But it's true, things were very primitive. Things, even with Midjourney. So I have this I have my next book, I'm using Midjourney to illustrate it, and I've turned the main character into a kind of a TikTok influencer. So when I started off, I was just illustrating all of the kind of the landscape and the characters, and it would take me a long time to make a character, because the features would be off, and you'd have to prompt it in a certain way, and you'd have to really, really play with it and be like, how do I actually get this character, and how do I get it to do what I want? Now I realise with each version of Midjourney that's come out, with version 5.1, like, you don't even need all the little indices about, you know, whether it's cinematic, whether it's this, whether it's that.
Trending on ArtStation,
exactly.
Grant Rutkowski.
Yeah. You just literally tell it what you want now, and it's got more intuitive. So.
I think the actual term for it is that it's more opinionated, right? So you don't have to write all this hashtags to make it look good. Well, on the other hand, it gives you a bit less flexibility, but I mean, Midjourney 5.1 is just amazing, and I mean, you can change the settings to make it raw, or like you can still use 5.0 if you want to. So
we've had some good laughs with Midjourney. We've had some great laughs of just getting Midjourney to create things, and with ChatGPT as well. We've done some crazy shit on ChatGPT.
We've asked it to do all kinds of things. You know, this character like this.
Yeah.
And,
we were like, can you we basically were like, can you write like a Harry Potter story, but replace Dobby the elf with, I don't know, someone who doesn't like violence, and every time there's a fight, it'll come and be like, no, we don't do violence. Like, what's the point in this? And it would just make a whole story. Oh, it's just insane.
The other day I did one. I got Midjourney to make the images. I said, write me a story about when Donald Trump goes to Hogwarts.
Nice.
And it was so detailed and so funny on ChatGPT 4. And the picture was Donald Trump with his little glasses on. With
we even have a favorite a favorite news writer from England. He's just hilarious, and like his headlines, it's just Shout
out to Adrian Chiles.
Shout out to Adrian Chiles. Yeah. But we were like, write headlines in the style of this, and it would do it straight away. And it's like, it's spot on. Like, that is his personality. And then it's like, write an article about this, and it will write it. And it's like, it's just how it's had the ability to learn in such a short amount of time and pull all of this information together. It's crazy. Do you think, in your opinion, it will get faster?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's already changing at a very fast pace, but it will become easier. And I mean, the way to look at it is like, what was it, 2 years ago something? GPT-3 popped out. I mean, before there was GPT-2, GPT-J. There were some large language models, but GPT-3 changed it all, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, it was very basic, and then some tools started to build on top of its API, right? Mm-hmm. Just basically providing an interface to solve end-user problems. And you can definitely see the same thing happening with image generation. So there are, let's say, platforms that just provide the core technology, and then there are thousands of different use cases on how you can fine-tune it and optimize it for the end user. So yeah, like a lot of people are just building tools on top of that to simplify the process. And well, bad news for some of them is that if the tool that they build is too good, then sometimes these models can actually build it inside of their own interface. Like, I don't know, you probably saw a lot of tools helping you write emails and stuff, and that's actually two very close friends of mine have developed this Google Chrome extension that helps you write emails, and that's amazing. Oh wow! But then in this new Google I/O, they announced that they're gonna build it in. So obviously it's gonna get simpler and simpler, and there is also some debate on whether previously people would call themselves prompt engineers. Like, I'm a prompt engineer, but then the reality is you're just like adding all this trending on ArtStation, Greg Rutkowski, 4K HD, all the hashtags. I definitely feel like it's gonna become less important, and the models will just, because previously if you would just write a dog and the image wouldn't just be that good, but slowly I feel like all these tools, they start optimizing, and you don't need to do all this dances around the prompts. But still, understanding how it works on the background is an important skill, I would say.
Just to clarify for our viewers, API is kind of, would you agree, it's like where you basically have the open source code, it's in the public domain, so then if other people want to come on and kind of make tools on top of that, they can, because they can get code in a way.
It's not necessarily open source. So open source is when you actually can see all the code and how it works, and then you can self-host it on your server and basically just pay for the server. While there are open source tools which you can do anything you want with them, and then there are public APIs. So for example, OpenAI is kind of a public API. I'm not sure if they still have the waitlist, but almost anyone can get access to it. and then you would be paying them to use this API and to do anything you want on top of that, but they kind of own the core technology. And like tools like Stability AI, they just publish open source solutions, and then anyone can customize. And yeah, there is a little bit of competition going on here. This week, I believe there was a little leak of information from Google that they were saying that, oh, large language models, they don't have any moat, right? So it's like there are solutions that can do it open source, and people would just basically build the same thing. I don't know. It's a complicated question.
I mean, what I like is I'm not a developer, and I'll happily say that, but I'm really trying to go into the AI space from a different perspective. So, for example, I look at sort of my life and how I can implement AI into my life, and even for mine, like I've got an AI art store, so I'm very much learning the prompts and getting it exactly how I want. So I'm definitely on the journey, and of course, being able to do this and listening to you and the fascination of everything behind it is really insightful. The question that I have is basically, I think with the likes of like open APIs and sort of being able to have the code, is if you took some time, and this is something that is on the to-do list, but if you took some time to learn about the code and learn how to implement it, you could essentially make your own AI software for yourself straight from home, by understanding the key basic fundamentals of it. So what would you recommend for people wanting to get started and wanting to create their own sort of AI software? What would you recommend to them on how to get started?
That's a great question. So what I can definitely see right now is that a lot of the AI models, the core technologies, are just available out there, either as an open source or a public API. So it's the core technology, the hardest work there is probably to build something like that. To build their large language models, you have to be extremely technical, I would say, even though there are also tutorials about how to build large language models on the YouTube, but you have to be technical. You probably have to understand how machine learning works and stuff like that. But there are a lot of just tools, APIs. It's either tools like OpenAI, or a lot of open source models are hosted on like Hugging Face. There are websites like Replicate, where it's very simple. You just need to understand how API works and be able to write very simple GET or POST requests, and to basically learn how to feed the API the data and how to extract the data that API returns back. And it's you can do it within like an hour, and then you can build on top of that. So if you want to start building an AI tool, first of all, I would definitely recommend not going with with the path of most of the developers, which is starting with technology. Most of the developers, they're like, oh, this is so exciting, I'm just gonna keep building. And there is a famous quote by Peter Thiel, build it and they will come. They don't come. You first have to focus on the problem. So I would just definitely recommend maybe making a little brainstorm with your friends, talking to people maybe asking yourself which problems do I have, and then trying to understand which AI technologies you can use to solve this problem. And then once you understand which actual problem you're trying to solve, then I would just maybe go out there. There are thousands of websites that show you which tools are available right now. So for AI, there are websites like futuretools.io. There is an AI for that.com, and like thousands of websites like this. There is a huge library called Phygital Plus. So just go there, see what's the competition, and then once you kind of understand the competition and you understand that you want to start building, I would go to websites like Replicate or Hugging Face and see whether they already have an API for the core technology, and then just connect it, I don't know, using Zapier or Bubble or something like that. Create a very simple MVP with this core technology. Try to charge people money for that to see whether they are willing to pay for the problem. Once you have first, 1, 2, 5, 10 payments, then you just start making. Yeah. And if you are thinking about how to get feedback from your customers and how to get your first email signups, I would definitely recommend Sidekick.ai for creating your landing page and getting your first users.
I feel like you're coming at it from the approach that we are trying to sort of promote with this podcast, which is that you should think about AI as a tool to help you 10 times your business, to help solve problems.
And also, to show sort of like the audience that AI doesn't have to be a complicated conversation as well. It doesn't have to have a lot of like technical terms, and it can actually be discussed in more of a simplistic manner. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that do want to get into the AI space, but it's like building a landing page, like, whoa, and then they hear certain different things, and it can be a bit overwhelming, right? So by having this podcast, we're able to like dive into, your amazing world and what you're doing, but also simplify it in a way where they can really sort of start to understand the fundamentals of, okay, this is how I start to build this, or this is what I can do. So, yeah.
I definitely agree, and the way that I would try to explain this is, well, when you're using your laptop, right, you don't actually need to know how internet works or how electricity works. You just kind of understand that you can press these buttons and you will send your email, so you don't have to get very deep to get the advantage of the technology. So it's kind of the same with AI. Obviously, if you understand the core technology, you might end up having kind of better ideas, breakthrough ideas, creating new core technologies. But to get the value out of it, you don't really need to understand how it's working on the background. And basically, all the IT world, all the programming is, every single piece of code is info in, info out. What every single computer function does is you provided some info, some input, it gives you some output. And it's the same with AI, but a bit of there are some extra steps in between, but basically it's just you provide it with something, text to image, image to text, text to website, text to video. And you don't have to overcomplicate things. I would also say that, these days it seems like it's getting easier and easier to start getting technical, right? So you can literally just watch some course on Coursera, learn how like Python or JavaScript works, and then the rest you can do is like GitHub Copilot and tools that would just like write code for you. You would get 10x more productive, but you still have to understand like how it's working. Myself, I don't write that much code. We've got a CTO right now, and my background is not technical actually, but like 4 years ago I started to learn to code just to understand how it works, and here we are.
I just want to say to the viewers as well, if you have any spare time at all, definitely learn a bit about Python and sort of the different methods of the basic fundamentals of coding, because I think for me personally, I worked at Apple for like 2 years, and even though I was very amazing, I love it, but even though I was at a point where like I can understand technical Apple stuff, technical terms and what to do, coding was kind of like a landing page, right? It's like I was like, oh, I do want to explore it, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what I'm doing, and now I'm like, okay, I need to do this, because there is, even just for me understanding the basic fundamentals, I might be able to do something like what you've done and revolutionize an industry. So I think I would definitely recommend that if you do have any spare time, just do some stuff, just learn about it, learn a little about coding, because I think it will help a lot in the long run.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I started learning to code. I ended up creating most of the apps with no code. So I actually created most of the apps I experimented with on Bubble.io, which is amazing. But like I started learning to code when I was 29, I believe, and I was thinking, oh, I'm too old for this. It's like there are all these guys who learn since they're 15, and there is actually, when I started to ask the questions in the community, apparently there is an ongoing joke, you know, that you can just, oh, I'm 8. Is it too late to start learning to code? And you can. People are asking if I'm 60. Is it too late? I'm 8. I'm 10. I'm 15, and people just get anxious about it. The fact is it takes some time. There is a learning curve, so you have to set your expectations right. You probably wouldn't be able to develop an app within the first weekend, you know, if it's not Hello World app. But you know, you start with something, you progress slowly, and then you know, in half a year, for the most cases, you will be able to create something worthy, and that's that's cool.
Failure is part of success. If you're not failing, you're not learning, and I'm a true believer in that. So whilst filming this podcast, we took a quick break, and some of my artwork turned up, and I just wanted to show you. So we're having a bit of product placement. What do you think? Do you like it?
It's amazing. Love it.
So I make AI art and I sell it on my website, and I'll put the link in the bio. But this is the first time it actually has seen it. I've seen it in a physical presence rather than digital. So it's kind of a very, very cool moment. So I'm going to pop it here so people can see it a little bit.
Hey Joe, why don't you tell people where they can buy this if they're interested in buying something a bit like that?
Yeah,
tell us a little bit of the story of it.
So I don't know. I just wanted, kind of like yourself, I just wanted to find something that I could do with AI that, you know, is exciting and interesting. And I am a big believer in artwork and interior design. And I was doing some interior design, and I thought, why don't I just make art that I can print out and put it into the house? And that's kind of where it started. And then I got really good with prompts and making like exactly what I wanted. So I then was like, do you know what? Let's make an art store and let's show it to other people. So it's very much like a new money, crypto, AI-esque for like the sort of like the new generation of people. Because I feel like, for me, like as much as I love art, I feel like I'm too young to appreciate like art, but I feel like digital art is art in itself, right? You know?
Yeah.
And AI is an art. it's crazy. So if you'd like to buy it, my website is called artsystore.com. And yeah, we do international delivery around the world. So yeah, perfect.
What do you think about AI art? Because I feel like people must say the same thing with your website builder, right? They're like, "Oh, this is not an actual website. You haven't put the hard graft in of knowing HTML, or this is not proper." Like, but it is. It's you know, it's an art form to create something like that.
Well, I mean. There is also an ongoing discussion, right? And well, there is you know, a lot of people say that obviously that AI art is trained on the art by the actual artists, and then it's still a gray area. It's not clear to whom it belongs, right? Because if it has been trained based on your art, right, then do you own the rights to it? But I mean, on the other hand, there are artists who basically also just manually copy the artworks of other artists, and that's legal, you know. So not really clear. I think what I would say is, I mean, some of the AI generated images are just stunning, and I enjoy watching them. And sometimes I would just spend a lot of time just looking through some AI generated images. On the other hand, my take on this is, I believe art or like literature or anything related, the beauty of it is the emotions, is the personal emotion of the author, you know. So it really, you know, connects to his or her personal experience, what they've been going through and how they express it. And I would say that I definitely, you know, can feel these emotions in the human-made art, if it's even the term. And I would say for the most part, the AI-generated art is beautiful, but not filled with such a great story in a lot of cases.
I think for me, what it stems down to is, and where I would consider it an art is, I guess, well, the definition of an artist is putting in physical presence what you have in your head, what you envision, what you feel, what you vibe. And for me, although I am a terrible drawer, I must admit, I wouldn't recommend drawing anything for you, apart than, it just looks like a children's postcard when I draw.
Yeah.
But essentially, where I think it's art is the prompts and the relationship with AI. So it's like really getting out of my head what I want to create, envisioning it and imagining it, and then working with AI to create it. And then if AI doesn't do it, sort of to exactly how I want it, it's like working out different prompts. And like, again, it's just building that relationship of like what I want in my head and working together with, I guess you could say, AI is my easel, my paintbrush, my pencil. And I would say there's energy to it. There's energy I give, there's energy back, and I feel like for me that's what makes it art. And it's cool. And for me, with loving interior design and stuff, like just having a sick living room with like this massive artwork, where when people look at it and go, wow, and I'm like, how did you do it? And I'm like, I created it through AI, through a relationship that I had through AI. I don't know, I just think it's incredible, really. I think it's the new generation of artists, I say.
All right, so, well, I also generated a lot of, I wasn't focused on art, so I was actually experimenting more with generating realistic images, and I have background in photography. I used to have a DSLR camera and carry it everywhere with me. So I tried reproducing some of this, of the photos that I made myself with AI image generation. I definitely think there is a personal input to it, but it's hard. Well, there is obviously a lot of respect for people who have been going through like years of education, learning and mastering their brush and everything, and I can definitely see these people, having hard time accepting like other people calling this art, because they've been perfecting this for years and years and have been struggling and, spending time on making their artwork perfect. And then there are people who are just, I watched a YouTube video and now I call myself an artist. So I can definitely see that. On the other hand, well, I mean, it's also a way of expressing yourself, and it's also, I mean, getting AI to express what your feelings are, your emotions, your ideas. It's also complicated. So I mean, there are some pros and cons for both.
I think art's a very broad term as well.
It is.
I think art has a very much. Everyone has a different opinion on what art is, and it's crazy. It's just cool for me that I found an outlet. That's an outlet for me, and it's really nice. And it's almost just a passion project, really. And like, I don't know. For me, it's like I can create exactly like the pieces of art that I want for my home, and that's cool. And then it fits in with all of the furniture and stuff. So it's coming back to Sidekick and yourself. So we've talked about, well, first of all, how amazing it is, and we've gone in depth a little bit more about sort of the idea behind it, what it can do, how it helps people have a step up in their career. Is there anything you would do differently if you made Sidekick again, or is there other AI software that you want to create in order to keep the ball rolling with helping people become more efficient and give them, essentially more opportunities?
All right. Oh, that's a great question. So obviously I would do some things differently, but it's not that I regret doing what I've been doing before. It's just like, it's eternal iteration process where you just like do things, you do mistakes, you learn from them. So obviously every next project that I do is based on my previous experiences. Well, so I don't know, what was the question again? If I would do something differently,
what sort of, if you were ready, well, if you were to create more AI software, what would you do next?
Right. So I think my key take on this is that, well, I definitely recommend having co-founders, and it's been my personal struggle for quite a long time. In fact, well, I've been launching projects since I was 19, and I only had previously had co-founders in one of the projects, and after that it just hasn't been working out, and it's been quite complicated to do things alone, also being a non-technical founder at the beginning. So I actually started I've spent a lot of my savings just hiring studios and freelancers and dev shops to create prototypes for the tools that I had in mind, doing the business work, but hiring the developers, which at this point I think is not the right strategy, just because, well, you have to iterate a lot and you will end up spending a lot of money, and for the studio or a freelancer, the motivation is to charge you hourly rates. So they actually interested not in making the end solution, but to charge you and bill you for more hours. There is only one success case I know of a founder who started with a dev shop and paid $200,000 for a prototype, and then it worked out, and that's Calendly. The founder of Calendly, he's a non-technical, and well, he had to risk all his savings that he had from a corporate job, and that's a great success story, and I admire him, but that's a rare story, right?
What is a dev shop, just for our
well, it's a team of developers who are billing you hourly. So
it's like a mechanic shop, but for developers.
I mean, it's just basically hiring a studio or an agency to do the work. So people who are not a part of your organization or team, who are outside.
So you think you're much better off having a co-founder who basically has the experience and has that background, who they can kind of build it, and they're in on the project with you, rather than kind of hiring that out.
I would say that the first of all, I feel like technical expertise has to be inside the team. I also previously with another project I was working on, it was quite big, so we raised $2 million in funding, and we had a team of like 15 people, and we've also went through all of the mistakes. So we hired developers from United States, from India, from other countries, and just spent a lot of money hiring teams from other places, but we ended up having an in-house team. So the technical expertise, I feel like, has to be inside the company. That's number one. And the second thing, in terms of co-founders, it's just kind of complicated to do everything alone. So I think it's just amazing to start from scratch. To start building with someone, you'll be able to go to do more, to do better. My story is I was trying to find a co-founder, and I just failed at this for a while. I started hiring freelancers, spent a lot of my personal savings doing this, and at some point I was watching a Y Combinator video, and how to find a co-founder, and the actual advice was, you can start learning to code yourself. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do, and I learned to do it myself. And I'm not the best coder in the world, probably in the top, like in the bottom 3% or something. I'm not quite good at this, but I learned to create something that works, and well, I launched. I got the users, I got revenue, and when you've got something going on,
you can reinvest it and make it better.
No. The idea is that it attracts co-founders. Like it's way easier to find a co-founder when you've got something going on.
Yeah.
So
because you can see you can see it for what it is. Yeah.
So I would definitely start with someone, you know, as a co-founder from the very beginning. But at the same time, you don't have to procrastinate and to wait for anything to happen. Just go launch.
What about using ChatGPT for code? This is obviously one of the functionalities, and we know that there is a new plugin out that certain developers have access to called Code Interpreter with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
How advanced is this, and do you think it's possible for someone starting out in business today to be able to use that to do the coding without knowing very much about coding, or would you say it's not quite there?
Well, first of all, I read a tweet about all the AI generated code is like that AI generated code will not take you from 0 to 1, right? So you have to go from 0 to 1 yourself. You have to understand how the code works, where do you host it, how like Git works and version control and stuff like that, functions. But once you have the core, then you can start using the AI code generators, and there is a bunch of models. Once again, I'm probably not the right person to ask to because I don't write that much code. You probably have to ask Yegor, my co-founder and CTO, about that. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth using, and I see a lot of developers using it.
I guess I guess for a beginner, it's a great way as well to have a bit of a helping hand in understanding how coding works, because possibly you can see what ChatGPT creates, and then you're like, okay, I can kind of understand why that's there and why that does that, and then so I think you're right. I think for like more of a basic level, I think I use it, but as it gets more complicated, you kind of have to. You're right.
The great thing about it is that you can actually ask ChatGPT what this code is about. So you can. That's what happens a lot, right? When you develop an apps, you just go to some repositories with like open source code. Most of the people don't write their own code; they just steal other people's code, and that's like perfectly fine in the developer community, and that's why open source communities started. So but what a lot of developers, the process of creating an app is actually reading through other people's code and trying to understand what it does. So I feel like that's what's great about ChatGPT is you can just copy paste code there and you can ask what does it do, what is the purpose of this, and it will be able to explain you in plain English or other language what it does, and that saves a lot of time. It's as if the person who wrote the code would explain it to you personally, and that's amazing. That's a huge problem in starting to become an engineer. Is like you have a lot of questions, and I mean it's good if you have a community of friends who are developers, but if you are just learning this by yourself, it's a bit complicated and it can get frustrating, and I mean you can hire consultants, but that's expensive. So just having someone to ask a question to, I think that's amazing.
Awesome. Is there any just a couple of sort of final questions now. Is there anything you would say to your younger self about what because you've created something amazing, and we've said it a lot of times, but
Thank you.
you have created something amazing, and you should be extremely proud of yourself because you've revolutionized something, and I guess that's one of the best things you can do in life. Is there any advice that you would give your younger self about sort of the path that you've chosen and everything that's been created on the journey?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you. And my therapist tells me the same words, like be proud of yourself. Just kidding. What I would say is, just don't hesitate and ship it. I mean, to start something, you always having these hesitations like, oh, but I have to do this, I have to learn that, I have to learn to code, and this is complicated. There are always, things you're telling yourself to not do the thing. I would just probably, just don't hesitate that much. And I also feel what I developed in myself is not, overthinking too much about what other people might say, and not. There is a fine balance in trying to help people and creating something useful, and not as seeking for external validation. So as a founder, you develop in yourself like the skills of not looking to be admired, just kind of going with what you have to do. I wrote this book called Courage to be Disliked. So I would definitely recommend myself learning this earlier. And I mean, once you are iterating a lot, well, I personally, it's been a long process. I don't know if there's a shortcut to this, but I had this launches, like I would launch a new product on Product Hunt, and then people would just shit all over it. They would say, why would you even work on this? And that's terrible.
There's a lot of noise.
Why are you charging money for that? And why it's how did you even came up with this idea? And like there are rude people on the internet, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, just
and people are very like, especially with you, and I resonate a lot with this, especially with everything that I've done over the years. There's a lot of almost, I don't know how to describe it, because I think every feedback that people give you, every negativity stems from somewhere. It's either jealousy, insecurity, they just want to be a dick, or they don't like seeing someone who is obviously intelligent, trialing and erroring, because that's all you're doing. You're trying new things, you're seeing what works, and I think it's just unnecessary background noise. It's.
And I think when you break it down, I remember seeing the response to when Elon Musk had bought Twitter, and I found it really interesting, because for me, Twitter at that time was a space that didn't really work, and I think a lot of people would agree with that sentiment and with that statement. It wasn't a great place to be. And here was a man who spent $44 billion on buying it to try to fix that problem. And so much of the media and so much of people online were almost spewing hate at him and calling him an idiot and calling him everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And I had this thought, and I was kind of like, but where's your $44 billion? This man has had the courage to try and solve this problem. Okay, maybe he solves it, maybe he doesn't. But as a society, I feel like we don't reward people for actually going out there. And it's the same with what you did. You actually went out there, you built something, you put your neck on the line, and rather than people saying like, hey, it's so great that you did that, I haven't done this, I'm just some guy who took it on the internet.
It's such a small-minded thing, because I think people, I like to use the phrase NPCs, because it kind of very much, there's a lot of NPCs out there, and they have their world, and that's it. They don't want to see more out of their world. They don't want to see new things. They don't want to see anything that changes their world. And I think, for me, what I've realized is I used to care a lot about what people think. Now, I've got such a community of people, and I guess you'll be the same. Like having such a community of people around you who want to see you do well, who are happy to share advice, who are happy to share resources. Yeah. And the reality of it is like, trialing and erroring, people will just shit on you because they don't have the emotional intelligence to go, oh, okay, they're actually, the same way you're saying, they're doing something, they're trying, they're finding different ways, and because they can't do it, the first initial thing is, oh, why are you doing that? And then people jump on the hype because people like to be in this NPC community of, let's spread hate and let's spread all of these ideas and let's knock this guy down for doing something.
Tearing people down. I really can't stand it the way that people do that. And this is a term me and Joe use a lot. This NPC, this idea of the non-playable character. And I think what me and you have both established over the course of doing this is the world really is divided into people now who are NPCs, who are very much tearing people down, plugged into this system, and then people who
people
are not
just either get it or they don't.
Exactly.
There's just that. Yeah.
But I mean, coming back to Elon Musk example, well, obviously he probably built some resilience, over his career, and it's been happening with Tesla stock being shorted and a lot. And I mean, when you've already achieved a lot, then I mean, you probably are resistant to all these comments. You don't care much. But when you're just starting out, right, you didn't have the time or luck to develop this confidence, you can be more sensitive about what people are saying. And the question was what my advice to my younger self would be is like just try not to listen to that too much, and just keep building and don't worry about this too much. And another thing you mentioned is about this community, the community. I used to be more of a lone wolf. I was thinking, I have to achieve everything myself, and I'm gonna learn everything myself, and that's just incredibly hard. And finding the right community just helps a lot. In fact, so for example, here I'm a part of this amazing community called Hackagoo, which is indie developers, startup founders who are just joining once a week. We work together sometimes, and other than that, we just support each other in the chat. And this community has been incredibly helpful. When I was just starting out my coding journey, these people advised me on how to do it, encouraged me. So when I've done my very first $20 sale of a SaaS product that I created, they celebrated with me and they gave me confidence to go there. So another advice would be just not to do it alone. Find the right community, exchange ideas. Don't worry about I get this so much. But what if the other people steal my idea? Don't worry about this. If
Most people don't have time anymore.
No, I mean, the honest truth is probably if you're just starting out, your idea is probably very, very bad. That's the truth. We all think that our ideas are just brilliant, but the truth, if you're just beginning, it's probably not that good. And when you get to the point when you understand that your idea is worth something, you would also probably at this point understand that it's mostly not about the idea but about the execution. So just share more, talk to people, talk about your ideas, ask for feedback, ask for help at the end. I mean, that's also totally okay. I come from a culture where asking for help is kind of considered a weakness, a little bit, but I had to learn that it's totally fine asking people for advice. So don't do it alone.
And I think you really resonate with that a lot. And I think this is something that you and I have talked about a lot, is this culture of gatekeeping. And I think one of the lessons you have to learn is that people like to hold information back and hoard information back. To me, that doesn't get you anywhere. I think you're much better off sharing what you know and your knowledge, and you all put it in together, and then you end up actually learning yourself. You give value, and then in time you will maybe get that value back, and you realize that everybody has unique skills, everybody has a unique way of doing things, and then actually what you end up selling is yourself, in a way, your own version of how you've done something, so that you might have the same idea as somebody else, but like you said, it's about the execution, it's about how you personally implement it and people buying from you as a brand.
And another thing that just maybe I'm repeating myself, but I think it's extremely important, I'll say it once again, is trying to do it with other people. So I started Sidekick by myself, and I've been doing it by myself for 5 or 6 months, and it's been extremely hard. And now I've got co-founders, and I'm so happy that I decided to share the responsibility and let other people in the team. And Yegor, Mary, if you're watching this, like, thank you so much for being a part of this. You're brilliant, and just like having a great team working on the same stuff it's I think it's everything. So yeah.
I think it's I find that from my experience personally, and I think you'll agree, the AI community is a community, and that's what I really like about it. There's this awesome energy of we're all innovating, we're all finding our own ways into it, and we're sharing it with each other, and we're giving advice, and we're collaborating with people. For example, you and your co-founders, we're collaborating as well, and it's like, it's actually funny because the ironic thing about it is people argue that AI is going to make everyone very sort of independent, and it's going to like separate humanity, and no one's going to speak to each other, when in reality I'd argue it's bringing more people together than ever, because again it stems down to the fact that people either get it or they don't, and the people who get it are like, okay, so how can we do this to better our lives? How can we do this to give like people who are just starting out a leg up in the game? I mean, we even have a friend, Sue, who she is a doctor from Brazil, and she's just hi, Sue, by the way. She's
second time we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Always
time.
mention.
We always mention her.
Yeah.
But she's travelled to Australia to work with AI in medical, and wants to basically find ways where you can use AI in the medicine world. There's people out there who they want to save the world, and I genuinely believe now that we have the power in our hands to really revolutionize the world and make it a better place. And Victor as well, shout out to Victor, our last guest, lawyer, making software for lawyers, saving all of that jargon and that time, and we're really onto something here, and there's passion, and there's drive, and there's fuel, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it, and I'm really excited to just throw myself in more and just be like, okay, I'd love to see where we all are in a year. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, even where we were like 6 months ago, and you say, the community. So I write for The Decoder, which is an AI news website, and my background is principally in journalism.
I love it because you'll tell me like everything, all of the new software, and you'll be like, have you seen this? And I'll look at it and I'm like, I've just learned about ChatGPT, and I'm like, and now there's a software for this.
I'm the geek in the corner that's like, oh, but by the way, this has come out, keeping on top of it. But I have never reported on anything, or such a space like this that moves, the pace at which it moves, the kind of people involved in it, the community that is involved in it. I mean, it really, really is extraordinary. And it's nice to be part of this community, because of course I'm building AI projects myself, to be almost kind of part of it but also outside of it as well, and having this podcast, reporting on it, discussing it. I've never been a part of a space that's like this, and I've like reported on politics. I've gone to like elections. I stayed up all night to watch the 2016 election, the US election, which is like extraordinary. And I went all around America.
You watched the King's coronation.
I did. I reported on the King's coronation, which was special.
Wow.
Because that magazine has been around. Reader's Digest, it is. They had reported on the Queen's coronation 70 years ago, and then obviously to write about the Kings, it's like, that's going to be in somebody's attic.
It's been
somewhere.
a while, right?
Yeah. But the point is, I've reported on all these amazing historical events, and I've never been in a space that's quite like this, that's so fast-paced, so extraordinary, and has such a potential for change.
And it's so inclusive. This is what I love about it, because it's like, we like, for example, the three of us, we have three completely different ideas and concepts around AI, you know what I mean? But we can all just sit here, just bounce off each other what we're all doing, and it's amazing. And I think there's, if anything, I would say this is definitely the most, apart from like an entrepreneurial community, I would say like this is definitely the most inclusive, because everyone has such a different way about doing AI. I mean, our friend Hairstyle AI, fantastic. You know what I mean?
Nick.
yeah,
Who's
no,
gonna be a guest, I think,
Oh,
on one of our
awesome.
future shows. So
we know. Nick.
Yeah.
We
But
actually, he's also a part of this Hakago community. I was
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about.
yeah.
It's also a great product, and
Yeah.
But it's
So
it's
let's
the whole,
just-
the idea behind
yeah.
it's just crazy.
Let's just tell our viewers, stop a minute before we get ahead of ourselves, explain what Hairstyle AI is. Hairstyle AI. So this is our friend Nick, who we said is going to be on a future podcast. And what he's built is basically a tool, and it allows you, it trains an AI model on your face, and then you can choose what hairstyle you want. So
That's
before you
insane.
go to the hairdresser, if you want to turn your hair blonde, you can see exactly what it looks like on you. If you want to go from having long hair to short hair, and the use cases of it are extraordinary, because you can do affiliate marketing with hairdressers, and you can. It's
But
crazy.
even from a personal experience, like self-conscious me at 16 would have loved that. When you're a teenager and you're trying to figure out like who you are and what you want to look like. Like, I wish that was around when I was 16, because that I feel like, and it's the same with like kids out there. It's like there's so many expectations. So from a personal aspect of actually like being able to boost your confidence and have something that's like, okay, this is what you're gonna. It's insane.
Oh, it's also a very good app for people like me with my hairstyle. Just to look. Oh wow, that would look amazing.
It's like a catalog. What do I want today?
It's fun.
So I think it's probably a good time to wrap up. But I just want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys.
It's been
Thank you
incredibly insightful. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we come to a close?
No, thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation. Love what you guys are doing, and thank you for helping makers like us, spread the word about what we are working on. I just loved it a lot. Keep it coming, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, my man.
Yeah, and please keep up the good work, because insane.
Will do.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Great.